This is The Big Couch, Mix 94.5. It's Clarsey, Shane and Kimber here. A lot of people love chocolate. Others love their footy team. Maybe your family, just not on Christmas Day. And some people love mountains. Why does a man climb a mountain? Because he's Patrick Hollingworth. Mate, welcome to The Big Couch.
Well, thanks very much for having me.
Now, Patrick, you get to the start of the climb. You're looking at Mount Everest. You look up. Do you go, oh, bugger? Or do you find it a spiritual experience?
Well, I mean, it wasn't the first time I'd seen Mount Everest. I've been to the Himalayas many times before that, and so I know what the mountain looks like. And yeah, I mean, I'm quite drawn to Mount Everest. It's a massive mountain, and when you look at it, you can tell that it's incredibly high up in the sky. It's a lot higher than sort of all the other surrounding mountains. Yep. So yeah, I guess I'm quite kind of drawn to it. In the past, with other mountains, when I've seen them for the first time, I felt quite intimidated, but surprisingly, this time around, I never felt really intimidated looking at Mount Everest because I was fairly confident that I was experienced enough, and I've been climbing for 10 years, so that I knew basically that it was all, if everything went to plan, we would be successful.
Patrick, you've climbed Canada, France, Pakistan, so many mountains. What's going on in your head? Like, what makes you want to do this? Because we've seen the documentaries, we've seen films. It's scary. Yeah.
I've just always been drawn to the mountains. For whatever reason, I don't know. If I see a mountain in the distance, I just sort of I automatically think, oh, which would be the best way to climb it, and what would the views be like from up there? I guess going on expeditions it's a really exciting thing to be doing, and I feel like when I'm on an expedition, particularly in a country like Nepal or Pakistan, you're living your life to the full extent that you possibly can, and that's probably why I enjoy it the most, because I feel like I'm really making the most out of my life. That it's exciting. And
Patrick, I just want to say Everest, Schmeverest, mate, because when I was training for the City of Surf last year, that hill on Beach Road near the Korean shops, I don't reckon you'd do it. It's hard work. Actually, I did notice on your website, your Italian friend Simone, and you congratulated him when he did his fourth summit.
Simone Moro, yeah. I think it was his third Everest summit, or fourth, I'm not sure, yeah.
Yeah. How much people traffic's up there? This guy's done it 3 or 4 times. What's going on?
Yeah, Everest is very, very popular these days. In the past 10 years, it's become quite commercialised, and you get a lot of big commercial expeditions. So some teams, there were probably 2 teams in base camp this year, which had, I think, in the vicinity of 25 sort of commercial clients or Western clients, and then they might have had a team of 40 Sherpas backing them up. So really large numbers. And
so you've got hot dog stands up there, and
well, not hot dog stands, but in the past there's been like there's some entrepreneurial sort of Sherpas who have set up bakeries and so on in base camp. But I guess. With more people and having more money, it means that more teams go there. It's generally easier than what it used to be with the number of guys there, and they line up the whole route. So it does get very crowded. I think this year they're actually, believe it or not, something like 400 people summited.
Wow!
So it's not the wilderness experience that you'd expect.
That's our next road trip.
We're sending Shane next week.
Yeah. Now, I've got to say, you've been climbing for 10 years. You obviously understand the dangers behind such an expedition. Now, you get to the top. What does that feel like? Like the summit, as we call it in the mountain climbing business.
He's a mountaineer.
got the lingo down.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. So when you're there, like obviously you've got to take in. How long do you? I'd be there for a couple of days, I reckon.
And the rest.
Yeah, because then you're going to think, oh bugger, I got to go down.
Now, where's that Sherpa's bakery?
Yeah.
No, we were on the top for. Initially, my initial memory was we were there for 20 minutes, but when I actually look back at the photos and all the recordings we did, we were there for probably just under an hour. And the feeling is the emotion was kind of quite delayed. In the past, I felt quite overwhelmed when I've reached the summit, but with Everest, it took us half an hour just to do the final walk or climb the final sort of 100 metres. So it was only after about 20 or 30 minutes when I called home, and I guess that's sort of when the emotion took over me. But I mean, to look down and see the views of, you could look into Tibet, and see that sort of 4,000 metres below you, and you could look over the plains of India, which are 7,000 metres. It's a very difficult thing to describe.
So you called home from the top of the summit?
Oh, the old satellite phone.
Yeah. I
gave my girlfriend a call, and then I called my mum and dad, and then I rang in with an audio blog to my website.
Yep.
And I had kept the sat phone in my down seat, because you have to keep everything inside your down seat, because it was probably about minus 25. So I had wanted to do those couple of calls, and also because I had all these people following on the web, I wanted to. They had been long on the journey with me, and I wanted to include them in it. So,
God,
so
you wouldn't want to break up with this girl. This is the first call you make is some chick.
All run out of credit.
Right?
Is there a
And
phone
you're
booth
away,
here?
what, months at a time climbing everywhere. And have you seen the movie Touching the Void?
yeah.
Did that
that's a
movie
great
inspire you or scare you?
freak me
Because
out.
that is, it's brilliant. It's really brilliant.
Is
But-
that the
it
bit
is-
where they eat all the people on the plane?
No, wrong one, mate. That was touching the sternum.
yeah, that,
To pluck the meat out of your teeth.
Touching the Void. It's a true story about these two guys who get into all sorts of trouble at the top of them while they're on a climb, and it's just
Oh, broke back.
One gives up on his
broken
mate.
legs and broken.
Yeah,
and
one
it's
guy
a tale
cuts
of
the rope,
survival.
but he saved his life. I know the gentleman who cut the rope, Simon Yates. I've got to know him, and he's a lovely guy. And
Well, he copped a lot of flack in the
he
community
did cop
Yeah.
a lot, he
for
copped a
cutting
lot
the
of
rope on
flack,
his
very
friend.
very unfairly. I mean, he saved their lives basically, and he's an absolute gun of a climber.
A lot of
Yeah.
people have died up there over the years. Do you ever think of? Does that ever cross your mind? Do you think about that, or only in your preparation?
Yeah, I know. It crosses my mind all the time. I mean, in my preparation, particularly normally before a big expedition in the final few weeks, so I think a lot about it, and I update my will and all these kind
Yeah.
of things, and all, and then when you're on the mountain, I guess initially it's sort of, well, I find that it plagues my thoughts, but then after a while you get comfortable in the environment and you get used to the danger. Yeah, I mean, we had a couple of encounters with people who died on the mountain, and I guess you just accept it, and you take it for it's a risk involved in what you're doing.
You don't see dead bodies when you're climbing up there, do you?
You do, you do. I mean, interestingly, this year there was actually a dead body about 20 metres from my tent in base camp.
No, you're kidding.
Now, this
Wow.
was a guy who died about 30 years ago, and he died up on the mountain, and his body had slowly come down on the glacier as the glacier moved down the mountain. Gone, but just
My
his skin.
God, I would not
Wow.
be
Yeah.
going up if I'd seen that. I
yeah,
think
like
that,
you were thinking there's rubbish on the way up. I don't want to see skeletons.
Yeah, I mean, look, we also had a Russian guy die in between Camp 3 and Camp 4, and as we were climbing on our summit push, we had to climb over his body. So,
Yeah, right.
I mean, these are, it's quite confronting. But I guess it just kind of reinforces the risk.
wow,
Does
it's
it make-
confronting listening to
Yeah,
it.
Does it
you're
make hopping in your car,
fascinating.
going back to work and walking into the office today just feel like just a little stroll in the park? Like it's totally different.
Yeah, it was a bit
environment.
surreal. We had a meeting at work this morning, and there was one of the items on the meeting's agenda was health and safety. And somebody was talking about how the lights in the stairwell had gone out and how that was dangerous. And this, the contrast, I just started laughing to myself, going, "Oh my God, this is just
Yeah.
bizarre."
Yeah.
It was very very strange.
Yeah.
Well, now you're back in Perth. Jacob's Ladder's back up and running,
Yeah,
mate.
can you get up
you can
Jacobs?
go up there.
I saw that. I used to do a fair bit of training on that, and it actually was closed in that storm. That storm hit, I think, 2 days before I left, and so it was kind of the timing was interesting because it closed just before I left, and it's reopened now that I've got back.
Yeah, I said to you,
Wow.
Pat, before we started talking, we'll probably talk for 4 or 5 minutes, and we talk for 15, so it's all good. and mate, all the best.
Oh, thanks very much for having us.
It's a big couch, so be careful getting off. We're worried about your safety.
Yes.
I'll abseil down it.
Thanks, bud.
Cheers.
What is at the top? Is it, like I think of when you say there's that much traffic. Is there a lot of rubbish along the way?
No, I mean, it's Everest is notorious for having a lot of rubbish on it, but apart from a couple of camps on the mountain, there is a fair bit of junk lying around on the route itself. As you're climbing, there's not that much rubbish. I mean, you might find a couple of oxygen bottles from previous expeditions, but for the most part, it's not too bad. On the top itself, there is a lot of prayer flags, and prayer flags are these sort of multicolored flags. You've probably seen them with script written in Tibetan, which the wind blows through them and sort of supposedly blows
Wow.
the prayers away. So there's a lot of prayer flags there, and people leave mementos or sponsors banners, all that kind of stuff. So
Sponsors.
yeah.
Wow,
Really?
it's not at
Did you
all
leave
what I've
anything?
imagined.
No, I didn't. I didn't leave anything, and a few people had asked me to take some rocks for them, but I didn't take anything either because I thought it's sort of best left to leave only footprints kind of mantra, I guess.
I want to junk it up. Can I ask you a really stupid question? I have trouble. I get stage fright at the urinal at the Subi Hotel on a Friday night. How do you pee when it's minus 25?
You've just got to be really quick. You've got to be really quick because yeah, obviously everything freezes pretty quickly. And I mean, stage fright, you just, you've just got to be quick. That's all I can say.
Yeah, so it's not actually something in your suit. You're not doing that.
No. I mean, when you're in a tent, you use a pee bottle,
Yep.
so you don't actually have to go outside. But when you're on the go, I mean, on the summit bid, for example, it's so hard to really get fluids into you anyway because everything freezes. And when I probably only drunk a litre that whole day, you're actually not really needing to go.
Right.
Certainly on the summit push anyway.
Yeah.
Food, like how long does it take from beginning to end? So,
well, the whole expedition was about 8 weeks all up, and that involves trekking into base camp and then acclimatising on the mountain. You do a couple of runs where each time you sort of go up a little bit higher, you sleep higher. So eventually, once you've slept a night at Camp 3, which is at 7,200 metres, you're sort of considered to be acclimatised, and then we dropped back down below base camp to a village at about 4,000 metres where we rested for a week, and then we moved back up to base camp, waited for a weather window for the winds to die down.
Yep.
And then when we had that weather window, we started climbing, and all up, probably took us 5 days. We probably summited on our 5th or 6th day actually.